two.
Thank you.
You want to stand behind the podium or you want to stand in front of the podium?
Either way is fine. Thank you. I'd like to say thank you so much to this beautiful center, this congregation, for hosting the film, and to Elaine and Dr. Steve Collins, who've been just great sponsors and friends, and they become co-producers of the film, and we're very, very grateful. There were some kind of spots and, weird pixelating. The film doesn't really look like that. So it will be streaming, and it will be in art house theaters, and it's on TV networks all over the world right now. But what's so interesting about this film is that the Las Vegas community was very, very important in the making of No Asylum. And we thank you for that. Without your help, this film could never have been made. And the Las Vegas Holocaust Resource Center, Doug, Ray Fiol, and Gene Greenberg, Esther Finder, you are all just amazing. We thank you so much for your help. And you actually introduced us to Holocaust survivors that were in the camp with Anne Frank and her sister Margot. And one of them is here this evening, and it's Meta Duran. Are you Meta? Can you stand up so we can all say, everyone can see who you are? People who don't know you. Oh, Meta's over here.
Ah, Meta's over there.
Meta was phenomenal. I mean, interviewing her at her home in Summerlin, and she was in both Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen, and she's here today. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And without the Evo archives, it would not have been possible to make this film, because the treasures that exist in that collection are phenomenal. I mean, the Nazis tried to destroy everything, and there is this remarkable treasure house of documents sitting in New York. Jonathan Brent is here with us, the director of the Evo Archives, and he can answer any questions you have.
Maybe before questions, I want to add my thanks to this congregation and to Steve Collins and Elaine for their hospitality and for making all this possible, but especially to Paula Faust, without whose vision for this film it would never have been made. So this work is the work of many people, many hands, many hearts went into this, many, many eyes, different religions, different backgrounds. It is the work of a spirit that I hope is conveyed to a much broader public, a spirit of peace and tolerance and humanity.
So we have, yes. So we have two microphones. Sean, raise your hand. And Del has them. Do you have the other microphone? Ah. There you go. So go ahead and raise your hand, and they'll try to come around. Try to ask concise questions rather than, speeches.
Hi, I have a two-part question. My first question is, with everything been written about and shown about the Holocaust, what made you decide at this time and period to do this picture? That's part number one. And part number two is, how long did it take from the inception that you had to do this picture to the end, or still working on it?
Thank you. Well, I was brought up Catholic in a great big Catholic family in Los Angeles, and I love all faiths. I always was fascinated by all the different religions. I got to live in the Himalayas and meet a lot of, great leaders of many different faiths. And I even worked in Pakistan and Afghanistan back when it was peaceful, before terrorism. And I was very struck by this material. I saw a pile of pamphlets about Evo, the Evo archives, and one of them, actually I have it over there, I meant to bring it up. It's the letters of Otto Frank. I saw that, and it was just so remarkable to me that this existed. Thank you. And I thought that Anne Frank, being such she's a symbol of tolerance, she's a symbol of respect, and especially for children all over the world. And what's going on in the world today, and has been for thousands of years, by the way, you know, it's very important that young people get this spirit, as she has so eloquently written, of tolerance and respect. And I myself was trapped in a religious riot in India in 1984, so that set me on a path to try to understand why and how religion is misused, how that happens. So I made a film about it, Not in God's Name, that aired on PBS, and I wrote a book about it called Not in God's Name, Making Sense of Religious Conflict. So this, to me, is another way to reach more people with a very important message. And the film took about 3 years to make.
Thank you. Another question? Raise your hand. Over here. Good.
Hi, I'm Ann Jenner. The man in the movie that you see speaking, Saul de Lima, is my cousin. And I was so shocked to see him speak, because he never spoke up. When he came back, he never spoke about it, and he never wanted to speak about it. He was a fine pianist. He played piano, but after he came back, he never played again.
Is there another question?
There's nothing to say.
Yeah.
I actually have a question. It strikes me how timely the video or the documentary is, considering our current issues across the world with refugees. I heard you said it's onto some TV networks. It'll be released in some. Do you have a discussion packet to help get the conversation going when it's shown in a public, theater other than like here?
The Anne Frank Center in New York, I'm very happy to say, is developing and producing and writing the resource guide that will be used for education all over the world. And the Anti-Defamation League, some of the directors spoke with us. They saw the film and they're very excited about using it as a tool. So it will be going out, educationally.
Sean, right there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for giving me this phone. My name is Meta Doran, and I lived through all of what we saw tonight. And it was incredible. I was very young in those days, taken from my parents. My parents were killed. And I was in Auschwitz, in Bergen-Belsen, and I was liberated in Salzwedel by the Americans. And it is something I have never forgotten or will never get over. It's just too much. So I thank you for bringing this to the public so they have some idea of what we went through. I was in Bergen-Belsen, I was in Auschwitz, and I was liberated by the Americans. God bless us, or bless them for liberating me in
when the war was over. So I thank you for showing it and letting other people know just exactly what we went through, because trust me, even as good as they showed it, it was still worse.
Thank you. Del?
This is a question for the gentleman from the YIVO Center. And thank you for this film. It evokes so many emotions. It makes you sad. It makes you happy for those who have been able to survive and tell the story, that they could share these memories. Not happy, but thankful that they're telling the story and letting people know what happened. But my question is, one of the most moving parts of the movie for me, or one of the parts that's most memorable, was when you say that if only decisions had been made in places like the United States to open our borders to individuals who are being persecuted, that perhaps what happened would have never happened. And can you tell me what you hope that message sends to policymakers, to decision makers, maybe who are in a similar position now when we have another series of refugee crises gripping the world?
That's a very good question. I think it's been historically established, quite definitely, that it was exactly the point at which Hitler learned that the Jews were not wanted anywhere in the world, that he realized he could do anything and nobody would care. And so the complicity of the rest of the world is something that we have to take very seriously. I think the message that I hope this movie conveys to policymakers is that making these decisions, they have to take larger issues into consideration than the local political issues and imperatives that generally drive our politics. America and England and so many other countries were being motivated by the micro-politics of their communities without any vision of the larger consequences of what they were doing. And that's what I think we need to have somewhere, somehow, in our government, among those who make these decisions, a larger vision of humanity, a larger vision of what it means, what it truly means to be a just society. And obviously, there is no easy solution to this. We see it before our very eyes today. We see exactly the same history unfolding. Not for Jews necessarily, but for others. We see the same desperation, we see the same closed borders, we see the same reluctance, and it is all being driven by politics. And it's either politics that is either coming locally, or is coming from Russia, or coming from other Arab nations, and this is what somehow we have to devise ways of overcoming. And so far, we have not found those ways.
Thank you. Another question? Shauna, way in the back there.
Hi, I'm Hillary Talent, and I just got back last night actually from the ADL summit that was in Washington, D.C., and we had a chance to go and speak with our congressman yesterday morning. We lobbied on Capitol Hill. There was about 400 of us. We went and saw 90 different congressmen and women, and I just want to let you guys know how important it is to tell your congressman, either via email or via letters, what you feel and what you want, because they represent us. We're the people. And so if we talk about these politics and we want politics to change, your voice needs to be heard. You have a voice. Find out who your congressman is. We sat with Congressman Heck and spoke with him about issues about our refugee program, voter rights, these types of things. And it's important. So find out who your congressman is. Write your congressman. Let them know.
Thank you. So we have time for one more question. Do we have one more? Del, right here in the front.
In all your experience of research and
Here you go. Here's a microphone.
Do you think that the biggest problem facing humanity today is fear or ignorance?
Probably a mixture of both. I'm going to let Jonathan speak to that.
That's a big question. I'm not sure anyone has an answer to that. I think that there are many, many pieces of this puzzle. And in some way, it's too much information that we get every day. And so we become desensitized to information. In some ways, it's the politicization of information that is the problem. So many different interests constantly shaping so many different points of view that it's impossible to untangle reality from fiction. And I think the media plays a very big role in this, as big a role as a broken political system plays. And I think what worries me most, and not just me, but so many people, is that we're living in a time where we see people going to extremes constantly, either extremes on the right or extremes on the left. The middle is shrinking, and this is a very dangerous thing. I remember growing up when I was a kid in Chicago. My father, who was a Democrat, was best friends with Chuck Percy, who was a moderate Republican. But Chuck Percy, a moderate Republican, knew that to govern this country there had to be a middle ground. People don't believe this today. It is almost impossible to find a Chuck Percy in politics today. Why? Why is there so much extremism? Some of it is our educational system, some of it is the media, some of it is the deepening crisis of resources in this world. So you're asking the wrong person. It's a question that maybe should go to the Brookings Institute. But it is the question. It is most definitely the question. I would like to add one thing, which is those of you who would like to learn more about the YIVO Institute and the kinds of documents that we have, the kinds of resources that we can supply to people here in Las Vegas, even though we're in New York City, through our various electronic programs and so on and so forth. There are packages in the back, and you can take one on your way out. And you'll learn more about us. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Final thought?
My final thought, just to express gratitude to everyone in Las Vegas who helped us with this film. I mean, it's an amazing community here of people that are trying to use the Holocaust to teach and to generate peace, generate understanding, and it's so important, and we really thank you for allowing us to present the film here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. You're welcome to go back to the social hall and share your thoughts about the film with each other. Thank you all for being here on this important night.